Hello and welcome back to Born to Rant. I'm Brandon, and today we are diving deep into a sequel that wasn't afraid to poke fun of its predecessor, its studio, or its audience. We are talking about a movie that doesn't take itself seriously in any way, but a movie that still completely works despite the fact it's essentially a live-action cartoon. And a movie that belongs in the same conversation as The Godfather Part 2, Empire Strikes Back, Aliens, and Blade Runner 2049 as one of the best sequels of all time. That's right, today we are diving deep into Joe Dante's 1990 masterpiece, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, how it came to be, everything that makes it awesome, and its legacy 35 years later. Now, Gremlins 2 is a movie that I know I saw as a kid, and I remember enjoying it. I'm sure my dad rented both of them as a double feature to show my brother and I when we were kids, but I definitely have always remembered Gremlins more from being a kid than I did Gremlins 2. However, over the last 10 or 15 years or so, I've really grown quite a fondness for this bonkers movie. And I think a big part of that is my deep love for meta movies and movies that don't take themselves too seriously. Like, I didn't mention it in my initial list of awesome sequels a second ago, but I also think that Scream 2 is one of the best sequels ever made. And I think that Gremlins 2 holds a nice little spot right next to Scream 2 as a masterpiece of both satirizing sequels and horror movies.
Someone's trying to make a real-life sequel.
Stab 2? Who would want to do that? Sequels suck.
No.
But Gremlins 2 also just plays as a satire for an entire era. It makes fun of the movies and culture of the 1980s, and I love every single second of it. From Rambo Gizmo to Leonard Maltin's cameo to the bit in the movie theater. There's also the absolutely incredible creature designs done by Rick Baker, from the Brain to Greta to Daffy and the Electric One. All of them are weird and unique and cool and awesome, and I just love them. But before I get too deep into talking about everything that makes Gremlins 2 a masterpiece, just a quick reminder that Born to Rant is a completely independent channel. Everything you see here is written, recorded, and edited by me. No AI and no corporate backing. And if that means anything at all to you, it would mean the world if you would like and subscribe. As for the origins of Gremlins 2, that obviously begins all the way back in the summer of 1984 when Gremlins was first released and made over $200 million worldwide, which instantly had Warner Brothers asking Joe Dante for a sequel, but Dante felt that the original Gremlins told a complete story and that there just wasn't any real need for a sequel, aside from Warner Brothers believing that there was money being left on the table by not making a Gremlins 2. Plus, the making of the first movie was not exactly an easy or fun experience for Joe Dante, and he wasn't exactly looking to dive back into that world immediately. And so for the next 5 years, Warner Brothers spun their wheels trying to crack a sequel. Some potential story ideas included sending the Gremlins to Las Vegas or even outer space. But after years of trying to crack the story but getting nowhere, Warner Brothers finally came back to Joe Dante and basically told him they had no clue what made the first movie successful and that he might be the only one to be able to pull it off again. So they told him if he came back and did Gremlins 2, he could do whatever he wanted with little to no oversight from the studio. And I mean, who can turn down spending $30 to $50 million of Warner Brothers money on something as silly as Gremlins 2? So Dante had finally been won over, agreed to make the movie, and got to work on putting it all together. The first order of business was finding someone to tackle the screenplay. The original screenwriter for Gremlins, Christopher Columbus, was a little busy putting together Home Alone and wasn't able to come back. So Joe Dante looked to screenwriter Charles S. Haas, who'd written a few movies already in his career, but nothing super well known. And it was Haas's idea to set the movie in New York, which was kind of a weird trend in the 80s and 90s. I mean, there's Jason Takes Manhattan, Muppets Take Manhattan, Crocodile Dundee 2, and of course Home Alone would also go to New York for its sequel just a couple years after this. Anyway, the other big piece of the puzzle was the Gremlins themselves, because the original creature designer Chris Wallace was a little busy directing The Fly 2. Wallace wasn't able to return, so Dante looked to Academy Award winner Rick Baker to take over. However, initially Baker wasn't really into the idea of not being able to create the creature designs from scratch and would instead kind of be in debt to the work that Wallace had done on the first movie. That is until Dante told him that Warner Brothers had given them the go-ahead to do whatever the hell they wanted wanted with the movie, meaning that Baker was free to create several variations of both Mogwai and Gremlins for the movie. And on May 26, 1989, Gremlins 2: The New Batch went into production with a reported budget of between $30 and $50 million. And the movie did film entirely in New York on location and on sound stages, and production lasted 4 months, finishing in September of 1989. And finally, on June 15, 1990, Gremlins 2: The New Batch was released into the world, and on its opening weekend, it placed 4th at the box office behind movies like Total Recall, Another 48 Hours, and Dick Tracy. Actually, the reason that Gremlins 2 was released this weekend is because Disney was releasing Dick Tracy, and Warner Brothers hoped that they'd be able to split the audience and knock Dick Tracy's overall box office down just a little bit, because Warner Brothers wasn't actually concerned with whether or not Gremlins 2 performed well. They were really more concerned with ensuring that the opening weekend box office record set by Batman would not be beat by Dick Tracy. And they really didn't need to worry, because Dick Tracy ended up only making just a little over half of what Batman made on its opening weekend. That being said, Gremlins 2 would go on to make a worldwide total of $41.4 million against its $30 to $50 million budget, making it a mild disappointment for the studio, especially when compared to the first film's worldwide total of $165 million. However, we're talking about the early 90s here, so the home video market was exploding, and I am more than positive that within a few months of being released on VHS, this movie became more than profitable for Warner Brothers. And with all of that out of the way, I think it's time that we dive deep into Gremlins 2: The New Batch and everything that makes it awesome.
Oh, wait a minute, what about this? What if they're eating in an airplane and they cross a time zone? I mean, it's always midnight somewhere.
And what better place to start than with the fact that Gremlins opens and closes with 2 mini Looney Tunes cartoons, both of which were written and directed by the iconic Chuck Jones, who was responsible for some of the most iconic Looney Tunes shorts of all time. And I think that the opening here really does set that the tone of Gremlins 2 will not be the same as Gremlins. It's sort of Joe Dante and team telling us to expect something a little more bombastic and cartoonish. And that's really only doubled down on once the movie actually starts. Gone is Hoyt Axton's voiceover, gone is the Universal Town Square, gone is Darlin Love's Baby Please Come Home. And gone is the entire Christmas season. And instead, the movie begins with some aerial shots of New York City, and fun fact, these shots are actually all reused from Superman 4. We're quickly introduced to frequent Joe Dante collaborator Robert Picardo as our primary non-gremlin antagonist, Forrester. And he works for the dreaded Clamp Enterprises, and he's going to visit our old friend from the original movie, Key Luke, as Mr. Wing. And I just have to say that I really love the set design of Mr. Wing's store. I just think it looks so cool, and I think the bit of Forrester resting his arm only for it to be covered in dust is hilarious, and again, really sets the tone for the story. So Mr. Wing, of course, turns down Forrester. Unfortunately, shortly after this, Mr. Wing dies off screen, and Gizmo is forced out into the world, where he's quickly picked up by these two chuckleheads, Martin and Lewis, played by Don and Dan Stevens, respectively. And I mostly recognize these two from their 3-episode stint in Erie, Indiana, and of course as the cop from Terminator 2. Now, after this, we are quickly reintroduced to Zach Galligan as Billy Peltzer and Phoebe Caits as Kate Barringer, and we get brought up to speed fairly quickly. These two have moved out of their hometown in favor of the big city. They live together, they both work at Clamp Center. Kate is a tour guide and Billy works designing building concepts, and we get just a really fun introduction to Billy's boss, Marla, played by Haviland Morris, and she is such a fun character. Everything is life and death with her. The smallest mistake is an absolute disaster, and the smallest win might as well be her winning the lottery. And this whole first section in Clamp Center gives us a great vibe for how this building operates. We see that Forrester rules it with an iron fist, even firing a dude for smoking while not on break. We're also introduced to Billy's friend, Grandpa Fred, played by the late, great Robert Prosky, and I love that he's just an off-brand clone of Grandpa Munster, and he hosts this cool late-night old horror movie show. Plus, his set here is awesome. Like, if I worked in this building, I would hang out here all day, and there is no one that could pull me away. But then the movie introduces us to my favorite set piece in the entire movie, Splice-O-Life Inc., who specialize in designer jeans. And here we meet both Julia Sweeney as the sneezy Peggy working as an assistant in the lab. We're also introduced to the late great Christopher Lee as Dr. Cushing Catheter, which is just a hilarious name on multiple levels. Catheter is funny for obvious reasons, but Cushing actually comes from Lee's co-star from their Hammer Films days, Peter Cushing. And when we meet Dr. Catheter, he's coming into the room, and I love the bit of him taking Peggy's tissue as a stand-in for the flu germs. But the lab also has a baby elephant, a cow with a metal device on its head, and of course Gizmo, who was brought in by these two twins, although they might be clones.
How's the cloning work coming along?
Really well, Doctor.
We get this great little scene of Gizmo dancing to I'm Ready by Fats Domino, which just rocks and is really fun. Apparently, this was originally supposed to be the Billy Idol song Dancing With Myself, but he turned the movie down for some reason, no idea why, but I do really love that song.
I'm dancing with myself, dancing with myself.
Anyway, shortly after this, Billy realizes that Gizmo is in the building because he hears this delivery guy whistling Gizmo's theme, so he runs up to the Splice-O-Life lab, finds him, and manages to break him out and hide him at the desk for the rest of the day. Unfortunately, shortly after this, we meet Daniel Clamp, played by all-time great character actor John Glover, who is really impressed with Billy's designs, which leads to Marla insisting she take Billy out for dinner. So Billy tells Kate he's gotta go and that she needs to take Gizmo home, and I love her reaction to finding out that Gizmo is back.
And
that furry thing? Oh.
oh no, honey, don't do that. I hate it when you do that.
But before Kate can get to Gizmo, he decides to take a stroll around the building and is of course quickly splashed with water, causing several other Mogwai to spawn, and I like that the character designs for the Mogwai here are a little different. They don't all look exactly like Gizmo and all have unique looks and personalities. But before I get too deep into the mayhem that's about to unfold at Clamp Center, I have to talk quickly about Billy and Marla's absolutely insane date at a Canadian-themed restaurant, with Marla coming on to Billy super hard and him just being super innocent and unaware until this moment, and then he bolts from the restaurant. And anyway, after he leaves, we get one of the dumbest jokes in the movie.
How about some horn?
Once Billy arrives home, he quickly realizes that Kate did not bring home Gizmo, and the next morning at Clamp Center, Billy immediately tries to warn Forrester about the Gremlins, and of course neither he nor anyone on his security team believe Billy. And this is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie because the security team immediately start asking Billy questions about the rules of the Gremlins, because I mean, the rules make absolutely no sense. Like, you're telling me the Mogwai are the only species on Earth that don't need at least some water to survive? And if you can't feed them after midnight, when can you start feeding them again? Because technically all time is after midnight, you know? Right after this, we get the great bit with Microwave with Marge, who's cooking and drinking, and then she gets attacked by the Gremlins. And I just have to call out John Hora's cinematography here. I really love how this movie plays with lighting once the Gremlins have arrived. Especially this shot of the studio filling with fog and green and pink lights. There's also Ken Baker's excellent creature designs showing the new Gremlins growing inside the boils on the backs of the other Gremlins. As the mayhem continues, we also get one of the silliest bits in the entire movie, with Leonard Maltin reading his actual review of Gremlins before being attacked by several of them. I just think it's really silly, and I love that Maltin and Dante were both able to have a sense of humor about his review. But it's when these little jerks break back into the Spice-O-Life lab that this movie really dials up its cartoonish hijinks. Here we get the birth of the vegetable, the brain, the bat, and fun fact about the bat, the whole daylight serum thing was a last-second addition when Dante and crew realized that the bat couldn't just be flying around New York in the daylight. Also, I love that it makes the bat symbol. And Murray Futterman, played by the one and only Dick Miller, and his wife Sheila, played by Jackie Joseph, are coming into New York for a visit. And Murray and the bat facing off against one another is another one of my favorite bits. And of course, the bat getting concrete poured on it and then turning into a gargoyle just rocks. It's then time for the most meta joke of the entire movie, when we cut to a movie theater screening the movie Gremlins, and the actual Gremlins have taken over and are doing shadow puppets, and we get this great bit of a mom coming out and yelling at the theater manager for the movie being too scary for kids, something Joe Dante actually had happen to him when Gremlins was first released, by the way. And then we get the really fun moment of the manager going in and asking Hulk Hogan to help out, which is a fun scene, even though Hulk Hogan is just the worst. From here, the movie really just bounces around. We get a lot of general mayhem all around the building. Grandpa Fred having the idea to shoot some news and teaming up with this tourist.
Work a camera. I am the camera.
Oh, good. Come on with me.
And back at the Spice-O-Life lab, we get the electric gremlin, the Phantom, Greta, and shortly after this, we get the best introduction of the entire movie, the spider set to Slayer's Angel of Death. There's also this great scene with Billy and Clamp where Clamp puts on this hilarious end of the world tape, something that apparently several news organizations do actually have on hand. And I really love him using his secret exit, but even better is Dick Miller commandeering his exit to sneak back into the building. We get Gizmo deciding to stop being a victim and having a quick pump session to become a knockoff Rambo, and it's silly and cute and fun. I also love Grandpa Fred's absurd interview with the brain that sees the brain just casually shooting another gremlin, you know, like a cartoon. It's then time for all of our heroes to meet up, and when they do, we get Kate starting to monologue about a bad President's Day she had as a kid, which is just fully riffing on the absolutely insane monologue she gave in the first movie about how she learned there was no Santa Claus. And I love that it ends with Billy just kind of pushing her out of frame, saying they gotta go. As for the finale of the movie, what I haven't mentioned is Billy and Clamp's fairly ingenious plan of setting the clocks ahead and putting up a giant night sky tapestry over the building to trick the gremlins into coming outside and being fried by the sun. Unfortunately, as all of the gremlins are gathered in the lobby of the building waiting for the sun to go down, a giant rain cloud enters the city and covers the sun up, so our heroes inside the building have to scramble to come up with another idea, which leads to Billy turning on all of the sprinklers, which of course only leads to more gremlins, but then he transfers the electric gremlin to the phone line down there. Pure cartoon logic, by the way. And the death scene here is absolutely bonkers. It's fully grotesque and awesome, and I just love it. As for the wrap-up of the movie, Clamp shows up, flirts with, and promotes Marla, promotes Grandpa Fred to news anchor, and promotes Billy to lead designer for his new fake small town. And all is well at the end of the day. So, 35 plus years later, what is the legacy of Gremlins? Well, I think it's one of the most insane movies that exists in what I like to call the Empire Strikes Back category of movies that are as good, if not better, than their predecessor. And I'm not alone. I feel like over the last 10 to 15 years or so, people have really started to come around on Gremlins 2, and love it for the middle finger it is to Warner Brothers and sequels in general. There's also this incredible Key and Peele Gremlins 2 pitch sketch that killed me when I watched it again for this video. And earlier in 2025, it was confirmed that Gremlins 3 was in the works with Chris Columbus both writing and directing. It sounds like Zach Galligan and Phoebe Caits will also be back, but I have to admit, even though I quite like Columbus's work as a director, I just don't think I need a Gremlins Legacy sequel, especially one not helmed by Joe Dante. And like, I'm sure Gremlins 3 will be really fun and enjoyable. But one thing's for sure, it absolutely will not have the anarchy found in Gremlins 2. I mean, I bet Gremlins 3 doesn't feature a single Slayer song, or any sick riffs at all for that matter. But let me know in the comments, which Gremlins movie is your favorite? Are you excited for Gremlins 3? If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. It truly means the world. And a special thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon who actually picked this movie to be covered on the channel. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there's a link in the description below. Patrons get early ad-free access to videos, access to an exclusive Discord server, and like I said, they get to help me pick what movies to cover on the channel. Born to Rant is a completely independent and AI-free channel. We release new videos covering all of your favorite movies every Thursday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.